That's the last place Landry will look for.
Boom. Once again, we bid you good morrow, good morrow.
Hello. How are you?
Glad to have you along for the Exiles podcast, coming to you live from La Divina Italian Cafe at Acadian and Perkins in the beautiful state capital, Baton Rouge.
Somebody asked me, why do you put like 8:10 on for the podcast? Well, La Divina, since COVID started, is operating under different hours. And sometimes we cannot get into the building until 7:30, 7:35.
Yeah, and we don't want you necessarily sitting there at the dot of 8 going, where are the guys? Where are the guys? Like their people
And
are chomping at the bit.
all these wires and things, we got to hook them up.
Yep, takes a little while. We got to hook up all this stuff.
And we got to go wash our hands, and we got to say hello to everybody that's here, and we got to get some coffee, and we got to put stuff in the coffee. And, well, now we're out of time for today. We'll see you next Wednesday.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Let's talk about masks for a minute, because whether you love them, whether you hate them, whether you eagerly comply with a joy in your heart and tell yourself you're doing the right thing, or whether you're like me and you say, look, okay, I got a mask in my pocket, I'll put the damn thing on if it'll make you feel better. The mask thing is causing problems. I'm going to relate two quick stories for you.
Let's talk about masks, baby. Let's talk about...
Let's go to our neighbor state of Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Actually, where did this take
Where
place?
they actually have children named Mask.
Actually, this first one took place in the state of Michigan. A sheriff's deputy fatally shot a man suspected of stabbing another man who had challenged him about his
Wearing a
failure
mask.
to wear a mask. This was at a convenience store.
Well, that wasn't very convenient, was it?
Is that not bizarre? Two guys get in a fight over, hey man, you're not wearing a mask. Winds up with a man stabbing a man and then being shot by police officers. Now, yeah, I like that. That's the way we ought to do it.
A micro mask.
Let's protect the microphone from our filthy spittles.
There you go. Look at that.
Also, right over in Acadiana, over in Cajun country, there's a dispute. 64-year-old man entering Walmart. It's captured on video. Man stops him. A kind of big, burly brother.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, puts the arms out and says, sir. We're asking all of our customers, please wear a mask. We're going to have to ask you to put on a mask before you enter the store. Now, forget government mandates. Forget what the mayor says or what the governor says. A store is private property.
Mm-hmm.
And if the store has a policy that says we don't want you in our store without a mask, you have two choices.
Go somewhere else.
Comply or go someplace else. This guy, Ricky Taylor, first of all, he's 64 and he's still going by Ricky.
Please tell me he spells it I-E as well instead
I have
of
no
Y.
idea, but Ricky decides, and he's just, no, I'm going in. And he tries to bulldog past this guy. Ricky takes a spill, lands flat on his face, but quickly gets right back up and heads into the store. The guy tries to head him off again, but he's determined not only is he not going to wear a mask, but no, he's not going to leave the store. He's going shopping. Police get called. Police officer encounters him. Sir, you're going to have to leave the store. They're requiring a mask, blah, blah, blah. Flatly refuses. When the police officer finally convinces him that he has to leave the store, and he's following him into the parking lot to assure that he leaves the store, Ricky gets in his car and backs over the officer.
Yeah.
Hitting him twice with his automobile. Ricky is lucky he's not dead. Instead, he's a guest of the parish.
Well,
I don't like it either.
you can't fix stupid. I saw Ricky's mugshot. If it wasn't over a mask, it was going to be over something else.
Ricky, you know what he reminded me of? Do you remember the dude who shot up the movie theater in Lafayette a few years back?
Yeah.
He looked a lot like that guy. And I'm not talking about physical resemblance. I'm talking about the look on his
The
face.
wild-eyed Willie look.
Damn it, I'm too old for this shit, and I ain't gonna take it.
Yeah. Yep.
Sorry about the cussing.
Well, and again, you're seeing a lot of this stuff, and this is not related to masks at all because they were wearing their masks. But did you see those three Philadelphians, the city of brotherly love and apparently not sisterly love, at the boarding gate for Spirit Airlines in Fort Lauderdale? Did you see them?
See them beating the crap out of a Spirit Airlines employee?
Well, it was a whole bunch of employees, and they were throwing things, and one of them decided it's a good opportunity to also steal the brand new iPhone of an employee.
Well, sure, always grab the shoes or the phone if you get the chance.
But now I'm going to tell you, these people who may encounter, all right, low price, low expectations. That's the way it ought to be. High price, higher expectations.
And Spirit is about as low as they go.
Oh yeah, and a lot of these customers have it upside down. They have high expectations on an airline where sometimes you can fly for $9. Okay, but my goodness, these people working at these boarding gates, they need to learn how to take somebody down.
Well, that was the first thing I noticed, is that none of those people look to be prime physical specimens.
Well,
but then again, who the hell is expecting to get assaulted at the boarding gate?
Well, two of them were in pretty good shape, and they were all in their early 20s. But here's the deal. The biggest guy there, the biggest Spirit employee, is continually backing up. It's a male, and he's calling, obviously, for security. The females are encountering...
Do you know why? Because he's a man and he doesn't want to put his hands on a woman.
Well, at that point where they have thrown metal signs and are throwing haymakers, but here's the deal. Two of them go bulldogging, okay? They put their heads down.
Bull rush.
Yeah, and they go after these women, and they're this far from the wall. Ladies, if you're working and somebody rushes you and you're near a wall,
step aside,
grab their shirt from the back, and let them continue to go into the wall. Boom. Help them. I guarantee they will go down.
Ole!
Yeah, you help them. Boom. They will go down. Don't sit there and slap fight.
I think that we're going collectively insane with this COVID thing. Everybody's just burning on such a short fuse now. And I'm sorry if I'm being bad when I say this, but it seems to be, at least a lot is being captured on camera. It seems to be members of the African American community that seem to be burning on the shortest fuse. I mean, they're ready to go off at a moment's notice.
Well, I've seen some video that would verify that, but here's the whole thing. These folks, their flight was going to be delayed by an hour and a half. Nobody said you weren't going to get on. The flight's canceled.
Nope,
we're oversold.
Take a chill pill. It'll leave eventually.
And for some reason, they thought it was appropriate to do this. And I mean, they are lucky nobody was seriously hurt.
What were they thinking? Were they thinking, oh, well, they beat the shit out of the gate agent.
Now it's going to go on time.
We got to board and take off, man. Let them on board. We'll put them first class. Well, there's no first class in Spirit.
Well, there actually is.
Is there really?
It's called the big seat, the great big seat. That's what they call it. But anyway, here's a little hint for you novice flyers. If the airplane is at the gate, which it was, and they say they're taking a delay, there's probably something that's broken on it, and they would like to fix it before they put your happy ass on board. This is a good thing.
It's just so silly.
But, I mean, they're yelling and screaming and throwing all kinds of crap. And now what's going to happen to them is they are mulling additional charges. They already have felony assault because they threw objects and threw fists, okay? The airline would not put them on the flight to Philadelphia that occurred the next day. In fact, what is probably going to happen is they are going to ban them from their airline forever. Now, what sometimes happens, and it's done very quietly, is all the other airlines will say, give me those names, we are going to ban them too, because they have demonstrated that they are dangerous. And they may not be able to fly any domestic airline in the United States ever again.
Wow.
I mean, it can get very serious.
We're on the no-fly list.
Oh, yeah, it can get very, very, very serious with this kind of stuff. But somebody is going to get hurt. And it will probably be the miscreant rather than the airline people, because many airlines have a policy that will say, look, you try to reason with people, you try to back up, but if they actually throw a fist at you, you can take them down. And there's usually a lot more employees at a counter when they're boarding a flight, particularly in COVID times.
Yep.
Than there are people who are upset and yelling and screaming. Somebody's going to get hurt.
I've never so much as frowned at a gate agent.
Well,
everybody who flies with any kind of frequency is the recipient of bad news. You just take it and roll with it. It's not personal.
I always realized that these people are stressed out. They've done this 8 times today, particularly if there's a bad weather front between their airport and the planes that are coming in from everywhere else. And everything's delayed and all that. And so you go up and say, not a good day for you, is it? No, sir, it isn't, dude, but we're doing the best we can. I said, I can see that, and I appreciate it. Look, would it help if you just gave me a voucher to stay overnight and
Why, yes, Mr. Profita,
well,
it would.
They'll say, come over
And how
here.
about if we upgrade you to first class?
They'll say, come over this side, and they'll say, okay, give me about 15 minutes. I'm going to punch a code into your ticket. I'm going to give you a number to call, and the airline will pay for all but $29 of your room because it's weather related, and they don't have to pay for any of it. Okay, but if you're nice, things go a little bit better for you. But did you hear the unedited audio?
Yes.
Oh, they were vile.
Oh, yeah.
With absolutely no reason to be vile.
Yeah, well, that's where they go with anger. When I say they, I mean angry people.
Mm-hmm.
Not what you might, but that's everybody I've ever seen when they rise to the point of violence, the cussing starts as well, because there's somehow it's your fault that you've triggered their violence. So, we're going to call you everything, everything that you can't say on television.
Have you ever? I know you don't fly that much, but have you ever seen?
I fly as seldom as possible.
Ever seen anybody removed involuntarily?
Oh yes, as seldom as I fly, I saw a guy. We were waiting on the tarmac in Miami. Mm-hmm. We had flown back from the Bahamas, and we were connecting to New Orleans International from Miami. And we were waiting on the tarmac, and they said we had some late arrivals, which I think they were telling us something like, we found some nuts loose, and we had to tighten them. But there was one guy who I smelled trouble when he walked on. And I think sometimes, you could just see he was drunk as a dog.
Oh, yeah.
And belligerent and argumentative, and first he wanted to sit here, and then he wanted to sit there. And it was, his attitude was that if he wanted your seat, get up and give it to him.
And you really want to be in an enclosed tube at 35,000 feet with that.
By the way, this was long enough ago. You remember the days when it was you just got in there and grabbed yourself a seat.
Open seating on a lot of those junket airplanes.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. And it was that kind of seating. And he just, 3 times, he asked somebody to give up their seat because he had decided he wanted that seat more. And finally, it got a little argumentative when a woman just flatly refused to get up and give him her seat. And he got argumentative, and then he got a little, there was a male steward on the plane, and the male steward just tried to, a gentle,
Sir, get out of her face.
Just take him by the elbow. And he spun around and took a shot. The guy dodged it. Next thing you know, guy comes out of the cockpit, probably, I don't know, navigator, co-pilot, whatever, but guy comes out of the cockpit, and those 2 men just bundled him up.
In the aisle, yeah.
Bundled him up and escorted him off, dragging him little toes behind him. And like you see in movies and television, we're big round of applause for getting that jackass off the plane.
Yeah, I've seen it happen a couple of times, and it's funny. All of their argumentativeness and everything, all of their steam seems to go away within the first 4 or 5 seconds of, all right, now listen to me. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say, and all of a sudden, oops, this is real. It's happening.
Don't arrest me. Don't arrest. Then suddenly they become a whiny crybaby. Man, don't arrest me. Come on, man.
I mean, that is the last thing you want, is to be on an airplane with a belligerent drunk.
By the way, how do you feel this morning? Do you feel like the world's a better place this morning? Do you feel a little spring in the step? Do you feel like a problem has been resolved and somehow the air is lighter and it's a happier world?
I think I know where you're going.
Lee High School has been renamed Liberty High School.
Well, think of all this. They can get Jerry Falwell to do endorsements. They've got a jingle they can use. Liberty, 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 liberty. Yeah, they can do that.
I think what they should have done is they should have spelled it, instead of spelling it Liberty, should have been capital L, lowercase IBERT, capital EE. Liberty.
Or Liberty.
Now, I'm guessing that Lee Road is going to,
Lee Drive.
Lee Drive is going to become Liberty Drive.
Well, I don't know. You got a lot of residents there. They're going to have to change all their addresses and all. Hey.
But I mean, okay, so score one for the activists, and what the hell? What's in a name? Who cares?
Well, one of the names that they proposed was PBS Pinchback High School.
I'm not familiar with PBS Pinchback.
He was the first black governor of Louisiana during Reconstruction.
All right, that'd be a great name.
Well, the thing is, everybody have to wear a double X jersey to get that on there.
Well, you just call it Pinchback High, but guess what? A lot of kids would be pinching backs.
Well, I thought a couple of them made some good observations, including Tatman and Old Connie. They both said, we can see the problems when you're naming a school after a person. And we think from this point forward, we should not name any schools after people. Because you're always going to find something about some person that when somebody wants to be aggravated, there's going to be something that aggravates them. I mean, we could take someone as pretty and pristine and noble and wonderful as Franz Borghardt, and we could name a school after Franz Borghardt, and there would be somebody somewhere that would find something probably specious, spurious, and totally untrue that they wouldn't like about Franz. And then we'd have to peel all those metal letters off of that school and name it after somebody else. Now, if they wanted to name a school Bill Profita High School, we'd have to have some changes in like mascots and mottos and things like that. The mascot couldn't be like a furry animal. The mascot would have to be like a Terminator type character, and he would have a thought balloon that would say, "Shut up and listen, I'll tell you what you need to know." And the motto would be, "You talking to me?" And that might be a little hard for people to digest.
Well, part of the original discussion was they wanted to rename the school for Sadie Roberts Joseph, local civil rights activist and founder of an African American history museum.
Yep.
My thought was, let's name it after an African American who's an honest-to-God hero. Let's name it Betty Smothers High School. Who could have a problem with that? Or maybe name it after one of our great sports figures. Shaquille O'Neal High School.
God, he's given so much money to education and so much time.
Warwick Dunn High School.
Yeah.
Another hero, not only on the field but off. But I agree with the school board. Come up with a name that is not, that you can't attach a person to, and therefore, and who could possibly have a problem with the concept of liberty?
Well, and Warren Drake, you can tell Warren's on the way out. He's sitting there at the meeting saying, and the students,
whatever.
Yeah, no, the students, they felt very strongly about keeping that LMS. LMS. He meant to say LHS.
LHS. Like you said, Warren's phoning them in, man.
He gets these letters confused. Both of them have sticks on the side.
Well, wait a minute. So the new superintendent hasn't taken her position
No,
yet?
what the hell? Why did we go through all this 2 years ago if Warren's still making all the calls?
Yeah, it's like I thought that she was already picked and.
I mean, they should have
changed the curtains in the office and everything, man.
She should have fast roped from a helicopter and said, "Wait a minute, I'm the superintendent now."
I've thought long and hard, because some people just really don't like all this renaming. They think of it as revisionist history. They think of it as appeasing people who are, just making noise to see if they can be appeased and whatever. But to me, it's like, what's in a name? And I guess maybe the reason I have a flippant attitude about it is because I have no kids in school, certainly not at Lehigh. I've got a niece and a nephew that went to Lehigh. They'll be moving to a different school, but they're moving to Terra, but we better change the name of that sucker.
Oh, yeah, that's next.
Because Terra's named for a plantation.
Mm-hmm.
But how many more? And that's the argument people make. They say, well, if we change this, now we're going to have to change that, change this. It's like, fine, change them.
You know, we might have been better off.
It's just a name, change it.
We might have been better off when we had PS 51.
Yes.
You know?
Very much. You know what the schools were named? Okay, mine was a small town, but the elementary schools were Second Ward School, First Ward School, Third Ward School, Fifth Ward School. Then there was School Street Junior High School, because it was a junior high school located on, guess what, School Street.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was Bradford Area High School.
Well, we didn't get into...
Who could be upset by that?
Yeah. We didn't get into naming schools after people until very late, because all of our elementary schools were kind of aesthetic names. Like, you know, Fairview Elementary School. Mm-hmm. And Glenbrook Elementary School.
Well, were they named after regions of town, neighborhoods of town?
Yeah, and sometimes just made up. You know, like ever seen Oak Street and there's not an oak to be found? You know,
yes,
that kind of thing?
In every city in America.
Exactly. And then when they started building junior highs, because that became vogue when I was just starting high school, to break off elementary at 6th and have 7th and 8th in a separate campus. Then they started naming, and the closest one to where I lived was named after the poet Robert Frost. Robert Frost Junior High School.
I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Yeah.
I always hated the poetry of Robert Frost.
Oh yeah, I mean it's an acquired taste. And then we started getting like Carl Sandburg Junior High, and they went with the literary figures. But like for high school,
Maya Angelou High. That was probably a little...
Well, she was not on the scene yet,
yeah,
really.
She came around in the 60s, 70s.
But, I mean, they would name high schools after the communities they were in, except for mine. You know, we were part of a consolidated independent high school district. And for some reason, you know, we had Elk Grove High School in Elk Grove, which bordered us. And, you know, we had Arlington High in Arlington Heights. And they named us Conant High after James B. Conant.
Oh, I thought maybe Scott Conant, the restaurateur.
No, James B. Conant, the scientist, and nobody much cared because nobody knew who the hell he was. Seriously.
Yep.
But he helped develop the atomic bomb. He was part of the Manhattan Project.
Oh, cool.
But then when we
wait a minute, that's a villain who helped with mass murder.
It is now, yeah. But then as we grew larger and they had to build a second one, then that became Hoffman Estates High School. It's like, wait a minute, can we swap?
Yeah, Catherine agrees with you. The solution, stop naming schools after people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Unless it's me.
That seems to be the simplest thing. Because so often, you know, history reveals that somebody wasn't everything we thought they were.
But don't you think a Bill Profita Magnet High School would be a great idea?
Oh, sure.
Because we could have all kinds of, shall we say, non-traditional instruction there. Kind of practical, common sense instruction at Bill Profita Magnet High.
Like, don't be a schmuck.
Yeah. It's like, you want to be a putz the rest of your life? Grow up. You can sing like a man. You know, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Does your thing touch your butt? Well, then you know what you can do.
Good practical, you know.
Practical
information.
But it's got to be a magnet school. It's got to be for kids that get it. I don't want any of these little pansy asses that their feelings get hurt.
Byron, I was hoping they would name it PBS Humpback in honor of Jim Lehrer, who passed away earlier.
The man, he and Tom Brokaw, the two network
that
anchors.
head just got lower on those shoulders.
And they could never pronounce their own last name. I'm Tom Brokaw and Jim Lehrer.
I'm Tom Brokaw.
They could not pronounce their own last names.
I used to do a pretty good Tom Brokaw. I thought he was just, who the hell thought of putting, you know, you got a guy with a speech impediment.
Yeah.
And you make him your evening anchor.
And people loved him.
And over on the other network, they had a woman with a speech impediment.
Baba
and
Wawa?
paid her millions of dollars.
Millions of dollars.
What?
Yeah, I used to love it when Gilda Radner did Barbara Walters.
Baba Wawa.
Oh my God. I just rolled. But yes, I feel better now. I think that South Baton Rouge is now safe for democracy.
I think we all can walk with a spring in our step, and we can look forward to no further incidents like what happened at police headquarters the other night. Do we want to talk about that?
Well, I wasn't here, so you're gonna have to tell me. We got about 4 minutes before our break, so tell me what's going on.
It's a tough topic to get into without sounding like you're hypercritical of the chief of police and possibly the mayor for putting down the policy that the chief was upholding. But there was a demonstration on Airline Highway out in front of the police station at Airline and Goodwin.
And what was the demonstration about?
It was, look, I don't want to trivialize. I don't know what the community is angry about now or still. I don't know what was, it was the usual. I don't want to trivialize it, but it was, let's just say it was a Black Lives Matter thing.
Somebody was upset, okay.
Right, it was a Black Lives Matter thing. I don't know whether it was a George Floyd thing or a rename the school thing or whatever.
I heard it was about that accusation that kid had a knee on his neck when the video clearly
that
shows
may have been it.
It was in the back of it was in the middle of his back.
It was in the middle of his back, and the chief had to come. The chief himself immediately came forward and said it wasn't on the neck; it was the middle of the back. Calm the hell down. But anyway, some people showed up and they protested, and barriers were put up. And to some people, those metal barriers are like, they have a little invisible sign that says "Please climb over me." So of course, some people went across through over the barriers. They were immediately
and as I remember, they do have signs that say "Do not cross."
Right, and there's a handful of people, but they were immediately arrested. And as they were taken inside to be booked, somehow I think the chief caught wind of it, and the chief comes down, and he says, "No, they're not. They're unarrested. I wasn't aware that because you have the right to remain silent, and they were walking them inside." The chief comes down and, "No, you're not under arrest," and he walked the group back outside to their protest. Now, if they crossed the barrier, that means they trespassed. They went where forbidden. That means they did break a law, right?
Well, here's the thing.
And do the police have the right to only enforce the laws that they want to enforce in the moment, or must they enforce all of them?
Well, let's take it to the officers who were on those barricades. Had they been given instructions to not arrest if they were breached, or were they following standard protocols? If somebody breaches this, arrest them. Because when you have confusion like this, and I'm going to be polite and call it confusion, when I really think there may have been some downtown collusion, as opposed to confusion, when you have confusion like this, you put your officers in a bad place.
Yep.
So
and you also perhaps run the risk of disenfranchising them from doing their job down the road.
Well,
does that track? Is that fair to say?
I wasn't here. I was told that one of the news stations had video.
If I was the arresting officer, and then the chief came and undid my arrest, I'd be pissed.
Maybe, maybe not. But it depends on what their standing orders were. And I did hear last evening that the chief was talking to them individually, in person. Like you said, it was what 5 or 10?
It's a small group, a handful.
That he was talking to them individually, saying, "Why did you do this? What are you angry about?" And then he'd say, "Okay, uncuff them." Now, that was secondhand. Somebody told me they had seen that. But, I do think, and Tommy is right, I do think you have a tendency to escalate the next one. Good morning, Elaine. I see you're watching from the beautiful beach.
Look, it's good. It's good to have rules, and it's good to allow people to protest so long as they obey the rules.
Well, and that's the thing. What do people really, really want when they take to the streets in large numbers? What do they really want?
Attention.
More than that, I think they want control. They want power. They want authority. And this is a method from which they try to take it. If the demonstration is structured by the law enforcement and government that they can have all the attention they can garner, and they can all have all the listening ears that they can garner, then that's okay. I think once they try to wrest control that crosses the lines of what is legal, I think if you have any variation in letting them do that, you just set yourself up for an escalation the next time. I mean, think about little kids, okay? If the kid hits the cookie jar and grabs 2 cookies when mom says only 1,
And you let them have them.
and you giggle about it and you let them do it, what happens the next time?
3 cookies.
Yeah, I mean, this is human nature. So I think, and I understand the ice is very thin. I understand there's a delicate balance. But I think if you have explained to everybody, hey, look, demonstrate all you want here, you cannot cross this line. When they do that, they are testing you. They are testing your resolve. And if you let them get away with it, God help you the next time. That's a contagious disease. That's more contagious than COVID.
Rule breakers, limit testers, property destroyers, don't appease them. That's just my
Well,
personal.
it's like these people at the airport gate in Fort Lauderdale. That was totally insane, totally out of control. And they were actually surprised when Spirit says, you're not going back to Philadelphia on this flight or any one of
to
our
jail,
flights.
baby.
Yeah.
All right, look, my coffee cup's empty.
We are going to take a break.
Okay, and we will be right back.
We're going
Leave
to
it on the page.
Yeah, we're
Give
going
us
to come
3.
back and visit with the man whose name we have nominated for a high school, Franz Borghardt.
Coming up next. Stay there.
Lord have mercy. Just trying to help your brand.